Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. This is the 101st video on my video journal series. Today's day is Wednesday, the 20th of May, 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. Yesterday I recorded my 100th video. If you haven't checked that out already, I highly recommend you go and watch it after this video, obviously, because yeah, we're already 101 videos in. And I was quite proud of yesterday's video, and it's nice to be back in the garage, obviously, on the red couch. But yeah, something I want to talk about with you today is the price of movie tickets, at least here in Australia. I've been looking around for I guess movies to watch recently because I have a lot more free time on my hands for now, and I've been looking at what's been out in cinemas, and nothing's really been, I guess, piquing my interest. I mean, there is the new Devil Wears Prada movie, which I've been hearing um, a lot about, but it's not really my sort of thing. And there's that Hugh Jackman movie where he's like a shepherd. I think it's called Sheep Detective. That one seems interesting to me, though. I guess I'll maybe wait until I get the Blu-ray release or something like that. Maybe I'll rent out the movie because the price of movie tickets here in Australia can actually match the price of Blu-rays or DVDs. Like to get a standard adult movie ticket, even with the concession student discounts, like 20, 25 bucks. 20 if you're lucky, but if you go to even one of the major chains like Hoyts or Events, it can easily be $25. And that's just for like a standard screening. If you got to watch like a movie with one of those like 3D glasses, obviously you're gonna pay for the glasses, but the price of the ticket will actually be a little bit more, I think. And yeah, obviously, they sometimes run discounts and all that, like student Mondays or Tuesdays or whatever. But even then, it's quite like a limited range. And if you were to just go regularly, like walk in, you got to pay 25 bucks, and that's excluding the food and drink as well. I think I've mentioned this before in a series, but getting a food and drink at the cinema, getting a you know maybe like a medium or large popcorn and a drink can cost the same amount of money as the movie ticket itself. So it's not too common to go to the cinema nowadays and pay up to $40, $50 to watch one movie, which is just, I guess, a little bit outrageous. And I know when I'm watching this 20 years ahead in the future, I'm like, oh wow, $50. Nowadays we have to pay $100 for the cinema experience, and I don't know what life's going to be like in 20 years and what inflation will look like, where $50 will look like a steal in comparison. Maybe the price of movie tickets in the year 2046 will be like $50. Who knows how inflation is going to be? But what I do know is that, yeah, the price of movie tickets is just really high, especially in comparison to other countries. Like when I went to Japan, for instance, I know that obviously the yen, and when you have to do all the conversions and stuff, and obviously they got a lower cost of living, but also lower salaries and all that stuff considered, the price of their popcorn and drinks were really reasonable. I didn't buy food from the cinema when I went, but I remember that you could get yourself a large popcorn, even for a Japanese size. It will be still, maybe an Australian medium, but it will be like $2 or something. That same amount of popcorn at an Australian cinema will be like $15. I'm not even kidding you. It'll be like 11 or $15. And yet the movie tickets in Japan were only around maybe like $15 for an adult. Less than 20 bucks for certain, but I remember the price of their food and drink being actually affordable, and I was just stunned, how cheap it was. But popcorn isn't really expensive to make, so obviously they're upping the price of popcorn and drinks and all that, so then they can recoup ticket costs. And I never get the just a little side tangent. I don't get why people purchase food at the cinema. I've always done the naughty thing. I've always brought my own snacks in. I'm guilty, all right, but everyone's done it in their lives when they go to a cinema and they're like, all right, we're not going to pay those prices. So they go to Woolies or Coles and they purchase a Snickers bar and they just hide it jack a pocket. It makes it sound like I'm a criminal or something, but no, it's perfectly quote unquote legal. I mean, cinemas can deny you entry if you got like outside food, but what's stopping you from like eating that Snickers bar and then taking a foot inside of if they're walking inside of the cinema? Sorry, like nothing's gonna stop you from doing that. Generally, the employees don't really care, but yeah, I just purchased food from Coles and Woolies, and then obviously I just put in my backpack, and then obviously the employees don't check their backpack. And to be fair, like if you walk into cinema, if you already paid a ticket, wouldn't it just be like, would an employee just feel kind of shameful that they have to like turn someone away just because they got food in their backpack? I mean, technically they have the right to, but like, I guess it won't be a really good look. And I don't think cinemas they don't check if you got like outside food anymore, because what's the difference between a packet of M&Ms purchased at a theater and at Coles or Woolies? Sometimes they have like a mini sticker on the package, like of the movie theater chain. So I guess they'll quote unquote know if it was bought at the chain or not. But how would they know if it doesn't have like any stickers or anything like that? Like, what if you show, oh yeah, I got a bag of M&Ms? You can just lie and say, oh yeah, I purchased it at the counter over there, when really you purchased it from Woolies. Like, I guess it would be really hard to tell. What's stopping you from saying, oh yeah, I just peeled off the sticker, I don't have the sticker anymore, but what, you got to turn me away from not having that sticker? Obviously, I never dealt with anything like that, but, I just find the whole concept of if you can't bring outside food, just a little bit unenforceable. But, that's not to say you should bring like a whole like barbecue or whatever to the cinema. I'm just saying, for like small snacks and all that, like, unless like cinemas are willing to, I guess, lower down their prices of snacks, which won't realistically happen. But it's not like I'd really do that anyway. I just sometimes just get something to eat before or after the movie. But anyway, that was my side tangent. But yeah, so obviously the cinema going experience is quite expensive now, and it really sucks because I really like going to the cinema and watching a movie on the big screen. And yeah, like obviously now, I guess like it really just not so much about the price, but more so on the experience. I want to have a good experience from watching a movie. I don't care what really the price is, as long as I can afford it without having to take a mortgage. But yeah, so like, what was the last movie I watched in cinemas? Oh, very good question. I think that was Iron Lung by Markiplier. That was a very good movie, by the way. I really enjoyed that movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you go and watch it now. Yeah, that was the last movie I watched, and that was a few months ago. So, but really, like for me, um, nothing's really been piquing my interest since like nothing has really piqued my interest. Sorry, since maybe like 2023 with the release of Oppenheimer. That was a very good movie, and I was very much into it. But then 2024 came around. Oh, there was Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in 2024. Sorry, I really enjoyed that movie. But yeah, 2025. What did I watch in 2025? I know I watched Doom Part 2 in 2024, but I didn't watch the first Dune movie, so I had no idea what was going on. Bad decision. Bad decision not to watch the first Dune movie, obviously. It was obviously a very good movie, Part 2, but I should have watched the first one to know what was happening. Oh man. Really struggling to think. I went to I went to a few theaters where they had like reruns of old films. I watched Princess Mononoke in 4K last year. Which Princess Mononoke, that's like a film from well over 25 years ago. I think it was late 90s, that film. Um, and yeah, man, like I guess like what's another movie? Sorry, my mind's just coming up blank. um, I watched the original Super Mario Bros. Movie in not the original, sorry, but the Super Mario Bros. 2023, not the 1993 version, the 2023 film. That was pretty good. I haven't watched Galaxy though because I heard it got pretty bad reviews, and to be fair, um, I've really been, I guess, quote unquote, selective about the movies I've been watching because yet again, it costs a lot of money to go to the cinema. I'm like, all right, well, if it's a movie that I might be interested in, then I could wait a few months and wait to get it on Blu-ray or DVD. I guess now, the main reason I'll go to a cinema is just to like watch a movie that I know I'll enjoy. If it's like a rerun or re-showing of an old film, or if it's like part of a franchise where I'm familiarized in like Sonic the Hedgehog or Super Mario, for instance, um, or that I guess um, the small amount of movies which I guess really like pique my interest because I know nothing about them. Like obviously I knew a bit about Oppenheimer because I studied who Oppenheimer was in high school a bit. Um, but like I took a risk because I didn't know if I was gonna like the movie or not, and I came out loving it. But yeah, I guess I'll talk more about I guess the quote unquote price of movie tickets because obviously you want the price to reflect the experience. And I think there's definitely been movies where I've gone to the cinema, you paid for the movie ticket and all that, and you just like you don't really feel you got your money's worth. Um, or you just feel like you should have watched another movie instead. Oh, another movie I watched this year, I think it was, or it would have been last year, a couple of months ago, was Avatar 3. I believe that was in December because I remember seeing ads for it in New Zealand and wanting to watch that. Avatar 3 was actually pretty alright. And I feel like, the Avatar movies always bang for your buck in terms of like, you know, I guess how much time you get per dollar because the Avatar movies like really long. Like they're close to like 3 hours, but yet they cost the same amount of money as like a movie ticket for like Avatar 3 costs the same amount of money as a 1.5 hour long movie, which I don't really find how that sort of thing works. Like how come the longer movie is the exact same cost as the short one? But I guess I'm not complaining because it does provide you I guess good entertainment and eye candy for looking at all the backgrounds in Avatar. I like Avatar is a very complex plot for me. I just like looking at the backgrounds of that movie and occasionally what's going on. But I feel like if you look away from Avatar for like a minute, or or maybe if you like zone out for a minute, you go back and you wouldn't realize what the hell's happening. I just call it blue people politics, kind of like Smurfs. But like the settings in Avatar like gorgeous, so I guess that's well worth my money. Um, but yeah, like I said, obviously I don't purchase snacks from the cinema, but I do purchase movie tickets from the cinema, and I I guess I like to see movie tickets become cheaper, but I also think that's because film studios nowadays they have like contracts and agreements for and all of that where they demand like a specific portion of the ticket sales that obviously this has been happening for a long time, but I think it's only been recently where they've been like upping it and upping it, if you know what I mean, like where they want like a very large portion of the ticket sales because I guess like movies nowadays a lot more like higher budget, like they cost hundreds of $1 million to produce, but they rake in sometimes billions of dollars, and obviously films even 30 years ago were um, lot less. It cost a lot less to make, or they had drastically lower budgets. For instance, I know the South Park movie, which released in 1999, they had a budget of like 20 million USD. Obviously, when you count in because that budget doesn't account for advertising and promo material, which is often the same price. Well, so when you look at a film's budget, it doesn't account for advertising and promo material, which can sometimes match the film's production costs. So let's say South Park, the movie was produced on a $20 to $25 million budget. I'll just say 20, and then all the advertising and promo costs total up to around $40 million invested in that movie. That movie raked in, I think, well over 100 or $200 million. It easily made like 3 times its original value. including production costs and promo material. It was a box office hit. Um, but like yeah, it was made on a budget which is like very very small for a movie nowadays. I don't know any movies nowadays that are produced on like a $20 million budget. Even if you look at old movies like Forrest Gump, for instance. I don't know the exact figures, but I bet Forrest Gump was made underneath $100 million. But yet again, it raked in like pretty like sizable figures. But nowadays, yeah, movies they cost a lot of money to produce, but they earn upwards of billions of dollars now. And obviously, I'm no economist or anything when it comes to I guess like movie ticket sales, but um, I guess it's just now companies really wanting to, I guess, recoup their costs, because um, I guess like that is one of their major sources of revenue for when a movie releases, and uh, to some extent, I can sort of understand how if movies now have higher budgets and all of that, then obviously a movie ticket will cost uh, a little bit more money, and especially when you like take into account things such as inflation and all that. And I wouldn't mind paying a few extra dollars to see a movie with like a greater budget where that money is wisefully sorry, where that money is like clearly invested into making a movie a better product, then I have no issue with it. Obviously, now we can do a lot of great things with movies, but with like technology and all that. But at the same time, I feel like, um, you know, especially here in Sydney, at least here in Australia, that the price of movie tickets is just too much among the major chains, at least. I know if you go to like a much more smaller independent theaters, that they usually have tickets for like way less. And especially if you go to like regional towns and all that, they charge for a lot less. But I guess that's due to the fact, well, obviously, there are two major chains here in Australia, theatre chains, that being Event Cinemas and Hoyts. Um, and I've gone to both of them, and they both offer very good experience. Staff are friendly and nice and all that, but um, yeah, I've only, I guess, seen the ticket price increase. I keep all my old movie tickets. I've been keeping up movie tickets ever since, from what I can remember, the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie in 2020. And yeah, so I guess I can like look back at my old movie tickets and see how much movies have cost. You know, obviously I would have paid for like a child ticket, but I can see how much a child ticket has increased if I just simply go online. And also another thing, I think I mentioned this before in the series. Why do cinemas have a thing where if you book online, you have to pay a surcharge of like $1 or two? That just doesn't make any sense. I can understand maybe in person if they were to make that surcharge, I wouldn't like it. But someone's bringing the ticket up for you. But yet, when you go online, they add a service fee. But what's the service fee going to? I think it's just another way to pocket an extra dollar or two out of the consumer, because basically a lot of people nowadays they get their tickets online because obviously they want to reserve a seat, especially if it's like a new movie, day one or the opening weekend. They want to reserve that movie, so they're going to purchase it online, spend that extra $2. But now I don't. I aim not to, I guess, purchase tickets online. I like it when I actually just go out and then I just go to the cinema to see what's on. And I'm like, hey, that sounds interesting. I'll just buy a ticket. I just like walk-ins when it comes to cinemas now. And there's been moments where, I don't even plan to go watch a movie. I just like walk by a local cinema and say, hey, that movie looks good. I want to go watch it. If it's in a few hours, I go shopping around, get something to eat, and then get a ticket and watch it. And especially, I always like watching movies with my mates whenever I go to the cinema and all that. But I guess, trying to organize things with your friends when they all got conflicting schedules and all that is really difficult. But yeah, in general, I guess to like wrap things up, I really like the cinema experience, especially as a child. I remember as a child going to the old Sydney IMAX theatre, not the current one in Darling Harbour, the original one in Darling Harbour. the one from 1996 to 2016. I was fortunate to go there at least twice in my life. I think the first time I remember was watching was actually on a school field trip, like best school field trip in um for like possibly in my life, which is basically going to a movie theater, which at the time was the world's largest, had the world's largest cinema screen. Would you believe it or not? The original IMAX in Darling Harbour. Yeah, I went to watch like a nature documentary for school, and the documentary itself was okay, but just like you know, the moment, like that feeling when you're a kid, and you get to go to a movie theater for like an excursion, And to be fair, that was pretty cool, and I never got to do anything like that in high school. So, and then the other time I remember this would have been before. Oh wait, I think this was the first time. So this school field trip would have been around 2016 ish. But I remember the first time would have been 2014 or 2015, where I went to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2 in theaters with my dad and my brother. I remember that was, I think, the first time in my life where I walked into the movie theater when it was still like daylight outside. I remember, going through the entire movie, and obviously it was a pretty like long movie, at least by you know my 8-year-old standards. And when I walked out, I remember just it being pitch black outside. I remember just thinking, "Oh my god, how long were we in there?" Because as a kid, like 2 hours or whatever, it's like a pretty long time. For me now, it's just you know the amount of time I spend doom scrolling YouTube all day. But like, um, like as a kid, yeah, it was a magical experience going to a movie theater, let alone um, a movie theater which had the world's largest cinema screen, and it was in the city and it's IMAX. I have very nostalgic memories of that place. In fact, I actually got very clear memories of what the IMAX theater lobby was like. I know you can look up pictures online and all of that, but I got like very clear memories of that school field trip. Just sitting down on the floor in like lines, and I remember when the movie ended. This is for the school field trip, by the way. I remember just like rushing to the bathroom and just taking like the longest piss in my life up to that point because I held my wee in for like an hour or something. I don't know how the hell I did it. It's just that I was very invested and locked into that nature documentary. But I remember I remember just peeing in the urinal, and this sounds very disgusting, but I swear it was like 30 or 40 seconds straight just weeing, which I'm very sorry for putting in these terms, but I remember just standing there going, all right, when's this going to end? Oh, there we are, it's ended. I think that was the longest wee I took into my life up to that point. But like I was saying, I got very nostalgic memories of that place, and it's a shame they knocked it down. And I've been to the new IMAX theater, and it's okay, but it's got a smaller screen and smaller bathrooms as well, and this ticket prices to IMAX is also pretty expensive. It's like 30 or 35 AUD for an adult. Um, but for my money, I'm not paid to, I guess, endorse this or whatever. But I went to Event Cinemas VMAX, which is kind of like IMAX, except it's Event Cinema's own sort of thing. And VMAX is actually pretty good. It's like I wouldn't call it budget IMAX. In fact, it's actually very good for the money. I would say, for around $20 or $25 for an adult ticket, depending which movie you watch, you basically get a bigger screen, larger, sorry, louder sound. You can't weigh sound. Sorry, bigger sound, bigger screen. Um, just a very you know pleasant experience. Actually, I've always enjoyed it, and the VMAX seats as well. They're made out of like better quality material. So yeah, I in substitute of IMAX, I just got a VMAX. But anyway, I guess yeah. To cut this video off, I really like going watching movies. Obviously, the price of the theater going experience is quite costly. It costs you anywhere between 40 and 50 AUD per person. If you just want to get popcorn, drink, maybe a slushie, and movie ticket. But to me, it's not really obviously it's a little bit about the price, but I value the experience more, and I don't mind, buying, I don't know, a snack from Woolies. So, um, and paying for a movie ticket. I don't care if I have to pay adult price. I'll call that fair. I pay adult price, and then I can just eat a bag of M&Ms outside of the movie theater and just walk in. What are you gonna do? Make me regurgitate it? But anyway, I guess yeah, obviously, I've been just looking at what movies out, and obviously, I'm just waiting, because I know Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is releasing next year, and I'll definitely love to watch that. But I've been just keeping my eye out on any movies that I guess will pique my interest. And I guess today's Little Wise quote will be, um, hmm, I guess it'll be, um, to always have different opinions on things. That would be a very good thing. Don't feel like if you have to watch a movie because everyone else is watching it. There are plenty of movies that I like which people consider quote unquote terrible, like Looney Tunes Back in Action. A lot of people say that was a bad movie, but putting my nostalgia goggles aside, I think it was a pretty decent movie. The one with Brendan Fraser. Um, like I like the Pokemon movies, which obviously a lot of critics will look at the Pokemon movies and go like, "Oh, they're trash," but to me, they hold value, and I think Pokemon movies 1 through 3 are actually like pretty golden movies, even if you know nothing about the franchise. I like movies where obviously people have, I guess, more critical opinions of it than I do, but that doesn't really matter as long as I enjoy those movies. That's all that matters, and you know excuse me, my nose is a little bit finicky, but yeah, I'll just say, just enjoy the media and shows and music and, excuse me, sorry, media that you love, um, and who cares if you watch a quote unquote bad movie? I've watched plenty of movies with a low IMDb rating, but I don't care to the ratings. I just like the action, Um, like I just like movies like Rush Hour 2, for instance, or just the entire Rush Hour trilogy. Like especially Rush Hour 2. Rush Hour 2 is like peak. Um, I like those sort of movies, and movies where I guess they obviously got like plot and everything like that, but they don't really take themselves too seriously. Like more like lighthearted comedy films, and like South Park: Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Obviously, that's my top favorite film. I made a whole another video about movies, but yeah, I'll say pursue. Um, Sometimes watch movies where you may not be interested. Obviously watch the movies that you are interested in, but always experiment with new movies. And there's a lot that media can tell us, especially movies. And yeah, I'll just say, uh, if you can, go watch it with friends, family, or maybe just partake in online discussions about movies. You'll quickly discover that there's a lot of people out there who share similar opinions to you on same form media, and it makes me feel good knowing that I'm not the only person out there who thinks Looney Tunes Back in Action is a very good movie or decent movie. There's a bunch of other people as well who, I guess, share similar consensus. But anyway, I guess that's enough of me blabbing, but I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, see ya, take care. See you tomorrow.